Today we're diving into the AI ZeroPoint Dynamics MT5 Expert Advisor. This video is sponsored by the Prosperity Algo Prompt Firm Bundle, a portfolio of 6 EAs designed to pass prompt firms and get consistent payouts. Click the link in the description to get a 1-week free trial. So this developer came out a few months ago with the first DeepSeek bot, which didn't actually use DeepSeek. So now curious to dive into this one to see if it actually uses AI or if it's just another marketing scheme. And here we can see that he's really leaning pretty heavily on the fact that this uses artificial intelligence. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. I have developed many bots which use AI models, be it LLMs, be it for news analysis, sentiment analysis, random forest, like those enormous applications for artificial intelligence. The issue is that many developers in MQL5 don't actually use AI. They just use the terminology to make their bot seem fancier than it is. And as long as there's a real strategy behind it, it's still not too bad. But sometimes there is no real strategy. It's just a blatant scam. And they just use all these fancy words to make people believe that it's somehow a sophisticated trading system. So here we can go into the sales page, and we can see that supposedly it uses a real-time cognitive organism and a context-driven analytical framework. So once again, if you read these sales pages, sometimes it looks like the developer literally asked ChatGPT to write a sales page for them, because many of these things are rather impossible to put in an expert advisor. Like, what is a neurosynthetic inference engine? Like, I am aware that yes, this does exist in real, like some of these topics do exist in real artificial intelligence. However, putting it in an MQL5 expert advisor would be exceptionally challenging, right? So like memory layers, yes, those exist. You can have various types of very sophisticated models which can work, but it's just tough to put them realistically in an expert advisor. And once again, like they're really just talking about more and more like the various AI functionalities that it would use, but it doesn't go into detail. It's more just buzzwords and big vocabulary. And it says that like, yes, it can trade multiple currency pairs, synthetic instruments, but it does not give too much detail in regards to what actual strategy it's running. So the only things I can see which are relevant here are no grid, no martingale, so that's a good sign. At the same time, supposedly it can trade multi-pairs. And once again, it's saying that it does not use indicators, but instead it relies really on AI models to be able to actually make trading decisions. I find the easiest way to tell if an AI bot is a real bot or not is to see not only if they're mentioning AI, but if they're actually showing you how to connect to the LLM network using an API key. Because as we know, in order to use any of these large language models, you have to typically have an API key and pay for usage. And that's why if we go to the installation guide and we don't see an API key and we don't see like instructions on how to actually set up an API, most likely they're not actually using artificial intelligence. So here we're seeing that you should allow a web request to DeepSeek, but once again, there's no AI keys anywhere. So that's not a good sign and probably showing that it's not very likely that they're actually using it. He's also putting an API for OpenAI, and as somebody who uses OpenAI APIs in a few of my bots, you need to have license keys for that. And clearly here he does not have an API key or a license key, making it effectively impossible for him to actually be using these APIs. So from the sales page so far, what we can see is that there's no real indication as to what strategy it's using, except that he's really heavily leaning on the AI. And if we go to the instruction page, there's no actual setup instructions for the AI models, both of which are pretty bad signs. Now to check out some of the signals before diving into MT5, we can flip through a few of them. And the funny thing is that he's claiming that this one is a 100K live account. And if we take it here, it shows us DarwinX live. However, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually DarwinX 0. So don't quote me on that, but I don't think this is actually a $100,000 account. I think he's paying whatever, like a few bucks a month to use DarwinX, and they give you this server even if you're using 0. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody please let me know in the comments if that's the case. But I don't think this is actually $100,000 with DarwinX the broker. It's simply paying 30 bucks a month to have a DarwinX live account. So that's pretty DarwinX 0 account. And that's quite misleading in my opinion. The fact that like he's saying, oh look, I really trust my bot. I put $100,000 in there. But at the same time, he's not doing that. So that's a bit fishy. At the same time here, we're seeing a few live signals, one on gold and one here on the USD yen. but these signals, we're only seeing winners so far. And that's actually not a great sign because he could simply be using an enormous stop loss. Because as we can see, they're all more scalping trades. They close really quickly. And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if his actual stop loss levels are significantly larger and significantly further away, which would enable you to have a run of a few winners to make a signal without actually having to show us how the bot really works. So yeah, all of this so far not looking great. So going over to MT5, I've taken the liberty of running a backtest here quickly, and you can see that it turned $10,000 here into around $240,000 with a 91% win rate and a very, very positive risk reward. So obviously, guys, this is heavily manipulated. We can see that it's catching every trade almost perfectly. It doesn't seem to follow a particular rhyme or reason. Some of them are mean reversion trades. Some of them are more breakout trades. So pretty random from what I can see. Yeah, really not looking great. And the fact that you're also able to run this without necessarily having any sort of API key is also not a great sign. Here he's saying hey, use DeepSeek, use ChatGPT, great, but where do you actually put in your key, right? So how would you actually be able to run this in a backtest or just more generally? And one thing to note is you can't actually backtest any of these models because you can't run web requests in the strategy tester. So if it was this good in a backtest, something is clearly wrong. So guys, this is a very fake bot. There's no actual AI going on here, and there's no real strategy. The signals look manipulated, or they're just super short. The actual strategy does not seem particularly logical. So yeah, this thing is bad. Don't buy it. Would highly recommend against it. So guys, hope you liked the video. Let me know if I missed something, because I'm by no means perfect, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.